Slept on Cinema is sponsored by Training Ties, the ultimate shoe tying tool. If you know someone who's struggling with shoe tying for any reason, Training Ties is the perfect solution.
Is this guy qualified to save an entire holiday?
More of a melted mess than a Frosty in Florida.
Definitely not as funny as I'd remembered.
If Santa really wanted to save Christmas, he'd probably start by hiding every copy of this movie.
I can't believe I saw this in a theater.
This film is as bewildering as an upside-down Christmas tree.
One of the worst holiday movies I've ever seen.
The only thing this film wraps up well is your time, tying it up in a bow of regret and lost holiday cheer.
Welcome to this week's episode of Slept on Cinema. I'm your host, StanSteamer.
And I'm GrobeStreet.
And this week, it is our annual Christmas episode. I think it's our third Christmas episode?
I think so. I think it counts as our third, the first non-horror Christmas.
Yes. We've had Black Christmas. We had
Silent Night,
Deadly Night.
Yeah.
And now, definitely lightening things up here a bit.
What about Reindeer Games, number 3? So this would be...
Reindeer Games. We did a double feature, Christmas double feature.
Yeah. All right, so this is our fourth Christmas movie?
Our fourth Christmas movie, and definitely on the lighter side, for sure. And this is really squarely a Christmas movie. It is our first Ernest movie, which is also its own genre. We're getting into one of my all-time favorite Christmas movies, Ernest Saves Christmas. I'm so excited. This movie... It's one of these things people always talk about their favorite Christmas movies, and people throw around, you hear Elf these days, you have Home Alone.
Yep.
You get the classic ones, A Christmas Story, there's all sorts of classic Christmas movies. But for whatever reason, I never hear anybody talking about Ernest Saves Christmas, and it doesn't make any sense to me.
That's when you brought this up, it's funny, like I didn't see you as an Ernest person. So when you were like, hey, do you want to do Ernest Saves Christmas? I was like, of course I do, but I didn't think you were. It's hard to tell. Like, you don't know if somebody's an Ernest person.
You never know.
Yeah. I was going to ask you this before, like your connection to Ernest, because it always is like a little touchy because some people really cannot stand him. And that's how it was in my house. I liked Ernest a ton growing up and watched all of his movies, even the straight to the VHS stuff. But my mom hated his face and all of his antics, so we couldn't rent the movie if she was going to be home because she didn't want to watch it. So it was like firmly if no one else is home, I can have an Ernest movie because he's too annoying for my mom to watch.
Yes, I had that same experience. My wife is very much not an Ernest person, which I didn't know until very recently. And we've been married for a long time. If I had known this before we got together, before we got married, I don't know if things would be where they are today. I mean, it's kind of a litmus test.
There's a handful of things which life is great and love our wives and everything else, got kids. But like, if we had known some of these things, and when you asked that, like, I knew right when you brought up Ernest that my wife is certainly not an Ernest person. And I put it on for 2 seconds and absolutely not an Ernest person, which I had no going in. But like, when you find another Ernest person, it's like, you see it, right? You see it too.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like it's a community. We are members of a community, and I'm sure that most of our listeners are as well. I get that feeling.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into this movie because I'm glad you brought it up because I forgot how much of a staple this was growing up for me too, because I was a Home Alone person too, but also Ernest Saves Christmas. I completely forgot about this movie, and then half hour in, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, this was like all like the childhood stuff comes back, so this is gonna be awesome.
Yeah, and I think it was kind of hard to find for a while because it just wasn't around as much. But now that Disney Plus is around, because this is a Disney film, it's on Disney Plus. It's easy to see.
This was on Disney Plus?
Yeah.
I rented it and bought it on Amazon Prime. Idiot.
Well, it's always good to support Ernest any way you can.
Yeah, that's true.
So shockingly, this movie, like all others, are at or below 50% on Rotten Tomatoes from both critics and audiences. And they did, I think, recently rename, I don't know if you've been on Rotten Tomatoes recently, it's like the audience score is now the popcorn meter. That's like a newer shift. But in any event, It's of course, not a fan of any kind of change here.
No change.
Um,
No change.
But so this is below critics and I guess the tomato meter and the popcorn meter, if you will, on Rotten Tomatoes, which blows my mind. And the podcast is structured so that the first half is spoiler free. Talk about some things to look for in the film, take a break, go watch the film, come back and talk about what we just saw.
Let's get into the rotten premise. Rotten premise. Santa Claus is looking for his successor, and hapless taxi driver Ernest P. Worrell is just the man to help him out. Traveling to Florida to pass his mantle on to children's show host Joe Carruthers, Santa gets into unexpected trouble, and it's up to Ernest along with a teen girl named Harmony to assist St. Nick with his important mission, or the future of Christmas could be in jeopardy. And I'll stay with our old school style of critics, 36%, audience, expectedly a little higher at 43%, which you'll probably get into it that this had done the best, I think, of the Ernest movies.
Yep.
And to still only have a 43% audience score, and this might be the most successful one, is telling of an Ernest movie, I think, because like we said at the beginning, it's kind of a niche little area where only certain people seem to find it to be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it is one of these things. People are very much either Ernest people or not Ernest people. So this is one of these things. If you're an Ernest person, you know it, and you're watching this, and you're going to love it. And if you're not, you just don't watch it. And that's fine. Not everything has to be for everyone.
It's kind of perfect because we've done so many of these for other styles of movies, with like Seagal movie or Van Damme or Stallone or Schwarzenegger. Those are styles of movies just like this. Oh, yeah. And you don't even need to like find this new Seagal movie coming up. If you don't like Seagal, you're not going to like the movie. So it doesn't really matter what it's about or the storyline or the writing. You're not going to like it. And if you do, you're going to be there on opening night watching it. And it's kind of the same thing with this stuff.
Definitely. So this movie did come out. It came out November 11th, 1988. Opened number 2 to the first week of Child's Play. What an opening week. I mean, that's amazing. If you want to go see a double feature that could not be more different, while somehow being a little bit similar. So this movie opened up with $5.7 million, took in domestic $28.2 million on a $6.5 million budget. I didn't see anywhere what the global numbers were. I'm sure they're higher. Christmas is celebrated not just in the United States. I don't know how well Ernest travels outside the border, but I have to think this did something outside of the U.S. We talked about this a bit, but is distributed by Disney, which is kind of funny now. I feel like Disney now has a very distinct brand, and some of these older Disney films are like 80s, 90s films that weren't the classic Disney style. It's just a little surprising when you hear that it was distributed by Disney. And this was the highest grossing Ernest film ever. It was the second in the string of Ernest films. We had Ernest Goes to Camp, Ernest Saves Christmas, Ernest Goes to Jail, which is also one of my favorites. And then Ernest Rides Again. The first 4 were Disney, and then the last one was not Disney, but still theatrical release. And then he had a couple of just sort of straight to video releases after that. But I think the backstory of Ernest is fascinating. So Ernest was created by Jim Varney, the actor that plays Ernest, and a Nashville ad firm, Corden and Cherry, in 1980. And they came up with this character, Ernest. And this is something I don't know if we've ever had in any other circumstance, but he was a singular character that advertised a number of different products. So it was the same style of ad, same exact character. It was often Ernest talking to a camera. So sort of the audience was usually watching this in the first person, often from the viewpoint of his neighbor, Vern, who was usually irritated by Ernest. And he would advertise, pancake mix and soda and all these different products, cars, you name it. And this character just really caught on. And I can't think of another circumstance where you had a totally created character that was advertising products across a broad spectrum of products. Like it would be as if Flo, the insurance lady, also hawked crayons and used cars. It just doesn't happen these days.
Yeah.
Like Jake from State Farm also sells pizza.
Yeah, Jake from State Farm. Yeah, exactly. Like all of a sudden, Jake from Pepsi, and he just does everything.
And it's amazing. I mean, it was a brilliant idea. It caught on. He ran a ton of local commercials, then got picked up nationally. ran a bunch of national products, Coke, Chex cereal, Taco John's. This led to a Saturday morning TV sketch show that he then had for just one season, but he won a daytime Emmy for that. And then from the success of all of that, this led to him getting picked up for a bunch of these feature-length films, which is just like that trajectory is mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's really funny because now you do see like people who are celebrities or like viral sensations. They'll sell whatever, could be anything, but not in like the 80s was there like a viral star that was just selling any product. Like you didn't even know what he was selling when he came on the screen. You knew who Ernest was, but you'd wait to see what he was even selling, which is, I don't even know what else is like that, where you just, you know, the person pushing. I guess it would almost like be a quick version of like QVC or something where it's like, all right, this is what we have today and buy it and now we're out of here. But it was really cool. And it was very strange as a kid because you first saw him selling you like Mellow Yellow. And all of a sudden he has a movie and you're like, was he a star to begin with? You didn't understand. Usually someone on TV is already a star. So it just seemed like this was already to a kid. Like this guy's already a star. He sells me all the stuff that I asked my parents for. Let's go see his movie.
And if folks haven't seen those ads, they obviously do live on the internet. They are well worth your time.
They're good. And he uses a lot of the bits from those ads in the movie, like the pancake bits and like a bunch of the stuff he uses to sell things. He just puts into this movie. Yeah.
They're fantastic. I mean, it's obviously highly nostalgic, but they're funny, they're original, they're great.
Then I think that's one main thing too. The nostalgia is almost necessary. I think if you come in blind when you're older, you're just going to think this is stupid because he has these like super exaggerated, like a clown or like Jim Carrey, like facial movements to make it funnier for kids. And if you're not okay with that, then it's going to be like, what's my mom, really annoying.
A couple of other nuggets. This was one of the first films to be shot primarily in Orlando. I think Orlando was kind of an up-and-coming spot at that point. And it was also partially filmed at Disney's MGM Studios, which at the time was still under construction and hadn't been completed. But they actually filmed a number of the scenes on premises there. So that's it. That's it for background. I think it's definitely worth your time. You could even watch some of those ads before watching this film if you wanted to. I think that's a good introduction to Ernest, and you sort of see it in the way that it was meant to be seen, in the order in which that people saw these real time back in the 80s.
It's funny how he takes his same uniform, the Ernest uniform too, and from the commercial.
Absolutely.
Outside of a few costumes, but we'll get to that. Should we get into Bolos?
Let's do it.
Bolo, a little question here on this Bolo, but Bolo Coca-Cola Santa, is he the best Santa? Coca-Cola Santa? It's a very warm looking Santa.
Yes, it might be.
It's up there.
It's a great Santa. And then you also get the polar bears too. There's all sorts of Christmas Coke things going on that are all perfectly done.
So well done.
I'm going to go Bolo. And this is just when the name popped up on screen. This is the name of one of the main actresses in the film, Bolo Noel Parker. I mean, when you're auditioning for a Christmas movie and your name is Noel, she probably just got the role right then.
That didn't even dawn on me. Yeah, that's perfect.
I'm surprised they didn't change the name of the character to just be like, that's just going to be, you are going to be your name in this character. It's the perfect name.
Forget Harmony or Pamela.
Yeah,
you have the name. Bolo 90s businessman talk.
Yes, definitely.
Or 80s.
And right in that same vein, Bolo, a database problem.
Bolo sweating. Well, it's really funny to see sweating in a Christmas movie, but there's a lot of it. It is shot in Florida.
It's always strange to me to even think about Christmas in places that it's warm. You now have that, so you've experienced that. For me, it's hard to even wrap my head around that that's something that happens that people experience. We'll just roll right on with this. Bolo, a Christmas tree.
Bolo, a shoe hat, which is a hat made of shoes.
Yes. Bolo, snow globes.
Yeah, nice. Great placement. Bolo for a kids movie. This is also pretty funny. Bolo, the number 69.
Yes. Early on. Bolo, an ad for Bic pens, which seemed very odd to me. It was like this would be the last kind of. It's like advertising potatoes. It's like this is the bottom barrel pen. Like you can't get a cheaper, just more utilitarian pen. Like this is the last pen. If you have a pen drawer, this is the last one you're hoping to pull out when you reach in.
Last
Yet
one,
there's
it comes that like it's like 8-pack of that awful plastic too that you take it out of. No one wants to be using that pen.
No, you're only buying that when you're like, I'm going to buy a bunch of pens because I'm going to put them in a jar and people are going to take them.
Yeah, they're other people's pens, not for you to use. Yeah, it's like seeing an ad for like Poland Springs vodka or something. You're like, no one wants to buy that. You buy that because you need a pen or to get drunk for cheap.
Yes.
Bolo backing up on a highway.
Yes. It's a lot of things in cars that you might question in this film.
Which is fun. That's a side of the times too. Like the 80s and 70s and stuff, and even 90s had a lot of fun car stuff. They don't do that quite as much, but
yeah,
you see a lot of it in this.
Bolo 3D glasses.
Just took that right off my list. Yep. Bolo physical comedy. I don't think you get as much of that anymore, but this is great.
Yes. And I'll follow that right up with face close-ups. A lot of full screen face.
I'll do Bolo funny faces.
Yes. Bolo lots of butter.
So much butter. Bolo, this is a fun little part from like the late 80s, early 90s, saying s'il vous plaît as a jerk thing to say, to be like, oh, you don't understand me?
Yes. Very dated. That'll come back. It's got it.
I hope so. I'll just start using it. S'il vous plaît.
Yeah, right. Bolo Eastern Airlines. And for some reason, I always get a kick out of movies that have now bankrupt airlines. I don't know why. I think it's because maybe airlines seem so giant and that they'll exist forever, even though they're constantly going bankrupt. But I always enjoy a good old-timey bankrupt airline.
Totally agree. Just catch a value jet or an Eastern airline.
Yeah.
Perfect. Bolo added sound effects. A lot of added sound effects. Very fun.
Yes. Yes. I think in particular, Bolo, the magical sound.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of
which reminded me a little bit. We had the evil sound in Halloween 3.
Yes. Yep. It's true.
Bolo snakes. Didn't expect to see snakes in a Christmas movie, but you do. Twice. Two different kinds of snakes, really.
Right. Snakes was a name in Home Alone, but we didn't actually see Snake.
Yep.
Bolo arguing with a child like a child.
Bolo Vern Cam. So just as Ernest shows up, so does Vern show up, sort of.
Sort of. Bolo hitting someone in the face with a pigtail.
Bolo lawn decor. Some really great lawn decor.
Great. I don't know if that's like a Orlando, Florida thing, but I had that down too. Like just great lawn care.
Yeah. It makes me think of Florida for sure.
Yeah. Bolo just great, funny, amazing graphs at a business meeting.
Yes.
A bar and a line graph.
Bolo, the John Wayne voice and sayings, or at least close to sayings.
So many. Bolo hearing a Santa's name that isn't Kris Kringle.
Yes. Yes. Bolo a punch bowl.
Bolo a Santa punch.
Nice. Bolo forgetfulness.
Bolo lying. Is that lying?
I guess this would be my last one. I feel like I could go on, but Bolo complex math.
Oh, nice. I have a couple more. I'll go fast. Bolo, My Pet Monster, and other great 80s toys. My Pet Monster is one of my favorite toys. Bolo air brakes. It was in the trailer.
Yep.
Bolo a poorly timed sneeze. And this happened in, I forget the quote, but like Buzz did it in Home Alone, where it's like, reason A, we do this. Reason 2, we do that. Reason B. So it was like Bolo a plan B, but it's 2. And Bolo, a dude who looks like Joey Gladstone, but isn't Joey Gladstone. And right at that peak of Joey Gladstone's popularity. It's not him. And that's it.
Yeah, this is definitely a great. We have films that are high bolo movies and low bolo movies. This is very much a high bolo movie.
Very, very much. I'm interested to hear what you think of it, what you choose for this one. But what drink to pair with this movie for you?
So I'd have to go back, and I'm guessing that I maybe have done this one for some of our other Christmas movies, because this is one of my go-to Christmas drinks, and it is mulled wine. And I think I've done this before, but just in case you haven't heard it or need a refresher, you get a very bold, fruity wine, some brandy, oranges, and then you could throw in, people call them like mulling spices, but it can kind of be whatever you have on hand. Cinnamon, cloves, star anise, cardamom, nutmeg, whatever makes, warm baking spices. Then some maple syrup or honey or some kind of sweetener. Mix it all in a saucepan. Throw it on your stove from anything from like 15 minutes to like a few hours, but just on super low heat. You don't want to burn off all the alcohol, but you want it to get the aromas filling up your entire house. Because I feel like that is the beauty of the mulled wine. What you want from mulled wine is the minute someone walks into your house, they smell Christmas and are like, what is that smell? I need to have whatever that is. And you ladle them out a cup of mulled wine, you throw a cinnamon stick in, and it's perfect Christmas.
That is perfect. I think we're aligned in our trying to just get to the vein of Christmas with this. And I might have picked this before too for Christmas movie. I think we both just went deep into like, what is Christmas to us?
Yes.
And for me, it's the Old Fezziwig beer from Sam Adams. Like, it only comes in their holiday pack. You can never get it on its own. But like, being from the Northeast for years, pre IPAs and all this crap stuff, like, this beer would only come in their holiday pack. And it was just this guy with this like bloated, fun Santa face drinking Old Fezziwig. It was just the perfect Christmas beer. So if you can get a Sam Adams Old Fezziwig, if you've had it before, you understand how that is a Christmas beer.
Yes.
It's just like, it's one of those two where like somehow it's in a sampler or something and you find that Old Fezziwig in the back of your fridge in like June or July, and you're like, well, screw it. Let's put on a Christmas movie, and I'm not going to drink this in the sun. So, Old Fezziwig from Sam Adams.
That's great. Yeah, very much in the same vein. I think two, you cannot go wrong with either of those picks.
No, and you have to have those drinks while watching a Christmas movie.
Yes, there's no other way.
As you can tell, we both love this movie, so can't wait to talk about it in full detail on the other side.
Yeah, enjoy.
In the past, there have been many traditional ways to celebrate Christmas. With songs, with gifts, with family and friends. There's a new way.
Ho, 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 Bert.
With Ernest. Ernest P. Worrell. He's back.
Know what I mean?
Back to save Santa.
Santa's in the slammer. Look at those beady, twinkling eyes.
Back to save Christmas. Back to save faith. Ernest P. Worrell.
Mr. Funtime.
In the mission they said couldn't be done.
On Comet, on Cupid, on Donder.
In the movie they said shouldn't be done. Trim the tree. Light the candles. Deck the halls. And hit the deck. 'Cause Ernest P. Worrell's coming to town.
I'm gonna die!
And he's coming
with colorful cars.
Ernest Saves Christmas.
Slept on Cinema is brought to you by Training Ties, the ultimate shoe tying tool. If you know anyone who's struggling with shoe tying, Training Ties is the perfect solution. Or if you know anyone who just doesn't like tying their shoes, Training Ties keep shoes tied all day long. Say no to Velcro and yes to independence with Training Ties.
Welcome back. Movie is amazing. Yes, Merry Christmas. If this was your first time watching this, congratulations. You have a classic movie you will now watch every Christmas.
If this is the first time you watched an Ernest movie, congratulations too, because you got more to come if you enjoyed your Ernest.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be the greatest thing if this was your first Ernest movie and you loved it, just knowing you have a whole library that you can continue watching. Man.
And a new Christmas movie.
Yeah. All right, let's just jump right into the draft.
Cool. You got first pick. This was your idea to pick this. You said you had a first pick that was pretty clear, and the rest were a little slippery.
Yep.
And that's just like how mine is.
That's right. So my first pick, and I don't know if this counts as two, but in my mind, they're one and the same. And I'm going with Jim Varney / the Ernest character.
Yeah.
We've obviously touched on how great Ernest is, and we are obviously two Ernest guys through and through. But this character is unlike anything. It's two things that are kind of opposite. One, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. But two, so many things came from this. Like, you can see the origins of so many other films and styles of comedy. I think Jim Carrey doesn't happen in the 90s the way he did without Ernest. I don't think that necessarily all the Eddie Murphy films in the 90s necessarily happened the same way without Ernest. You can see there's inspiration coming from these Ernest films, the way he does the physical comedy, the way he does the faces, the way he does his over-the-top expressions and acting, and the different characters, the costumes, everything about it. It felt groundbreaking, and in a way that is now sort of just like sowed the seeds for a whole bunch of other really fantastic things that happened. And I get that it's not for everybody, but I think it's just so fun to watch. You know, it's not your run-of-the-mill character, the run-of-your-mill movie, the run-of-the-mill way to portray a character. It's Ernest. That's all it is. And it's unbelievable.
Anytime you end up like talking for a few minutes about Ernest, you end up coming to that same conclusion at the end. It's like, it's just Ernest. It's nothing really like him. And the guy has Jim Varney has like a classical background, which comes through. He's not just like, I heard another podcast talk, he's not like a Larry the Cable Guy or something with just like dumb humor. He goes into these like soliloquies and like does Shakespeare in the middle of these movies for kids. And you're like, where does this come from? It's because he's a great actor. He himself is this like unique entity that's like, it feels like he should be on a sketch comedy show, and he's just like a one-man band doing all these different things. And you just bottled it up into Ernest. And yeah, it's Ernest, but it's all these other characters too. And just going into the origin story too makes it so cool. How everything we talked about in the beginning. And Ernest is great because, I mean, there's that like that like 69 on the taxi, whatever, is like a precursor to, you know, like Monsters Inc. and Pixar movies puts like little jokes in there for parents to keep them engaged too. And like, this is probably a harsher version because it's not a cartoon, but there's stuff that anyone can enjoy this movie, adults, whatever. There's stuff for everyone. Obviously, kids really enjoy it. And I think the cool thing about Ernest too is he's kind of like a clown for kids that isn't painted up. Like, he does all the same. That's why kids like him and adults don't, because a lot of the stuff he's doing is for kids. And kids, like, when you watch a kid show, as we have kids now, like there's a lot of pauses and big dramatic movements to show the feeling that should be coming through. And that's what he does. He works just so great with kids in his movies. He's often he is like accompanied by a merry band of kids. And this one is the teenage girl. He always plays off so well with kids and youth. And he just has he's just a great, kind character. Like, it's just this, like, he's not like Rocky, but a little bit, where he's just like this naive, good soul who might leave a wake of destruction behind him, but it was unintended. Just a great character.
I mean, it's a great character. And it's the genesis of it, the way it started with the character and everything came from that.
Yep. It's a great pick. I mean, the first pick has to be Ernest. I mean, it's the number one pick. I'm glad you picked that so I could pick mine, which is, we're doing this on December 5th. A couple days, and I already have a Christmas tree up here, and we're in the holiday spirit and stuff. But then this movie put me in the Christmas spirit more than, like, it just catapulted me into it now. So we watched it a few times in the last couple of days, had it on with my family and stuff, and it's just like, you watch that movie and it is Christmas time. So if you want to, like, some people, 100%. I'm Home Alone like that too, but I usually wait till Christmas Eve for Home Alone. But if you want a movie that's like, all right, it's Christmas time, how do we get into to that feeling? It's why we chose the mulled wine probably and the Fezwig. This is a Christmas movie, and I just like this movie because it just puts you in the Christmas spirit.
Yeah, it really does. We touched on this before. To me, this is a Christmas classic. And it's not just because it's Ernest. I think it's a great plot. That's obviously, it's been, I mean, if you've seen The Santa Claus with Tim Allen, there's a lot of the Santa Claus here. Clearly, most of that movie is an homage to Ernest Saves Christmas, but it's just it's a great plot, regardless of whether it's an Ernest movie. It's just a great movie.
Yeah, very, very well done for sure. And my second pick is, I didn't see this coming, but the guy who played Santa, Douglas Seal. No idea, but this guy has like a crazy history of, he was from Great Britain and he was in the military during World War II. He took off like 30 years from acting, came back, and ends up doing the voice of like the Sultan in Aladdin. Mm-hmm. And he's in Rescuers Down Under. He's the koala, and he's in a few other things. And he just is like this really good lead actor. And he just crushes this Santa part so well. I didn't want to pick like the whole cast for this, but this could have been, if this was a poorly acted Santa, even Ernest couldn't have saved this movie. Like it's a lot that was put on this guy to play Santa, and he delivers an incredible performance as one of the best Santas in a Christmas movie. It's up there in, I don't know, top 3 of Santas. Yeah. The guy just does a great job with that like heartfelt Santa stuff. How it pains him so much to not be Santa anymore, and it comes across.
That's completely right. And I feel like there's 2 parts to it too. It's he himself, the actor, nails that Santa role so well. I mean, as you said, it feels so genuine. And it's also the Santa role itself, like the concept of having this role being passed on from person to person for, hundreds of years, but still that it's not an eternal person, that there's this magic that lives within Santa, and it grows and then fades and things like that. And this idea of passing it on, it's an amazing job acting, and it's just I think an amazing portrayal and concept of Santa as well. I think the two of those things came together, and that's one of the things that makes this such a great film.
Yeah,
so that's a great pick.
It's a guy like I didn't know who he was, and he just comes out of nowhere, and he just crushes that role of Santa, which isn't easy to do. All right, you're up. Second pick.
So this is my second pick, but really, this is your pick. I am stepping into your shoes with this pick.
Oh no!
The score for this film was fantastic, and you have to have a good score in a Christmas movie. It's like you cannot have a good Christmas movie with a bad score. It will ruin, more so than any other genre. Yep. Christmas movies the backbone of a Christmas movie is its score, and this one was fantastic. It was lighthearted, it was playful, but it was still tugged at you a little bit, and it just carried it along really well. Did I have it written down who scored the movie? I don't. I'll have to look that up. But the guy who scored it, interestingly enough, one of his next scores was The X-Files, which I think just shows this guy's range. I mean, because The X-Files, like I say that now, I'm sure everyone listening can hear the X-Files theme in their head. Very different from the score of the film we just watched. But this guy, I mean, again, it shows his range. This guy was a master craftsman. The score here, crucially important, and absolutely nailed it.
I'm sure that's part of my pick too. It puts you in the Christmas spirit. I'm sure that's like idiots. That's because of the score. Like the first coming into the movie, the first minute is the Coca-Cola Santa, and that the music is just so good, and it carries through the whole time. Yeah, that's a great pick. The score is so good, and it's like you said, you cannot have a great Santa Christmas movie without Christmas music. That's almost like half of Christmas is the music.
Yes. My third pick, and so we're going to have to do some honorable mentions because I feel like I have so many that are honorable mentions. And this movie is so great. I almost hate to pick things that are somewhat outside of the film, but I'm doing it anyway. The movie poster here, phenomenal movie poster. If you haven't seen it, it's Ernest climbing. He's at the top of this bending over Christmas tree. He's got this very earnest expression on his face, very exaggerated. You got Santa's sleigh in the distance in front of the moon. It just conveys exactly what the spirit of this movie is, and it is an all-time Christmas movie poster as well. It's one of those things that if you knew nothing about Ernest and you were walking by this in the video store, you were looking for a Christmas movie, you had to rent this. You absolutely had to rent this based on that poster.
That's a great choice. That poster is incredible and iconic. This is me. Was that your third pick?
That was, yes.
I'm going to go with my third pick. I loved when they went to Vern's house. That was awesome. And the first, he's like, he builds him up, and he's like, yeah, Vern, I've helped him through this. I've helped him through various things. And I think he says the impressive job that he has. It's a really, really, really nice house. Vern has people coming over later for a party. And the best part was like right when he shows up, Vern just shuts the door in his face, and it just sets the mood for everything else. Like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. Like Vern is his friend, but also like there's just destruction around Ernest, and it just went right into that with the cord in the wall and just destroying all the knickknacks and putting the tree in there, which was the one that fell from the highway. He was thinking of Vern the whole time, which makes sense from the commercials because we're all attached to Vern because Vern is us. We are the camera.
Yes.
And it's such a funny thing to do, like it's sort of breaking the fourth wall without breaking the fourth wall, like talking to the audience, but it's not the audience. But it's one of the first times I was ever like looking at the camera and talking at it. And just, I think, right when he shut the door in his face right away, you're just like, this is hilarious. He's going to be going in there, and he is. And it's just like goes in there, causes destruction, and gets out of there. It's phenomenal.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was so perfectly done how they did it. I would have wondered, like, how are they going to incorporate Vern? You had to, but it's like, are they going to, it's a movie. Are they just going to show him like that? That's not going to feel right. But they did it perfectly with, as you said, they made the viewer Vern just like in the commercials, and it was seamless and it fit perfectly. It felt right. I loved seeing the inside of Vern's house. How it was all decorated. Like, it was perfect. It was perfect Vern. Like his house was very nicely decorated. It was all, he had the punch bowl set up, the Christmas, like everything was done right. Cause that's what Vern, that's Vern. And then Ernest is this tornado of destruction, well-meaning destruction, but destruction nonetheless that just comes through. And yes, it was a great, I'm so glad they included it. It felt, it brought us into the film and it felt right at home.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, this is tough. My sleeper pick here. I can't whether to go with enjoying stubbornness or something holiday. I'm going to go with I liked Chuck. Was it Chuck and Bobby? That were in like, so I'm not picking them even though I could, but I just liked how Chuck, his stubbornness to stick with the M as opposed to the V in Elms. So they're waiting on, he's stuck with it. He just goes, we're waiting on helper Elms. And I thought that was just like the best. In his Bobby's just saying V the whole time. Clearly it's V. Clearly it's Elves. And I just love how he's just like, no, it's an M. And they got right back into it at the end with the rabbit. But I enjoyed the stubbornness where clearly it's not a V. And I don't know why it's probably not related, but it made me think of, we watch a lot of Winnie the Pooh here, and Piglet lives in a house, and a bunch of the signs been taken off, and it says trespassers will on the sign. And instead of, because it's a kid's story, like clearly it's supposed to say trespassers will be shot. But because it's Christopher Robin coming up with a story, Piglet's like, no, that's it's a sign for Trespasser William. We called him, that was his nickname. That's what they just made up the story as. It's not related to it all, but it's like, you're not connecting the dots. Clearly it's elves, not elms. Clearly it's not, it's trespassers will be shot, not trespassers. But whatever that was, I really enjoyed the stubbornness of sticking with it.
Yeah, and those sort of aside scenes were great too. It's just like you get a little punch of something a little bit different that obviously weaves into the story, but is also its own little vignette of these two guys hanging out at the storage facility.
And those dudes were in at least 5 of the movies, I believe.
Yeah,
the Chuck and Bobby characters. They had their own commercials as well, too.
Yep,
like those two.
Yeah, great characters. Great pick too. My sleeper pick, I think I'm going to go with, this is just a classic move that I employ all the time. I love it. It's a great shortcut. But when you're cleaning up, just hiding things instead of actually putting them away. So this is pushing stuff under the couch, just kind of sweeping things into a corner, under a rug, whatever it is. And there's some of that here. I love that move. It's the quick and dirty way of cleaning up. It's like you got someone coming up. They're not really going to be looking everywhere, but someone's coming over. You just need to make your house look clean very quickly. And you just kind of shove stuff wherever it can go. Boom. Looks clean. Love that move.
Yeah, it's the Pulp Fiction, right? You just put the
Yes.
blankets over it. When you get pulled over, someone like really looks, yeah, they're going to find it. But in general, it's going to pass. And he does that
Exactly.
great with he spills all the stuff in the opening scene of that businessman he's bringing to the airport.
Yep.
And he wrecks his bag and just uses his leg to kick it under the car.
Yeah.
That was great. That's a good pick. We got to go into some honorable mentions here too. I'm just going to take warm weather Christmas movies. Not a lot of those, so I enjoy them.
Yep. I had honorable mentions. Just in Vern's house, the punch bowl. I love the concept of a punch bowl. Like it kind of goes along with mulled wine, but it's like when you're going over someone's house for a party and they don't just have your like beer wine, they have some special thing that they made that then everyone there can have. And it's usually a little unusual or something different, but everyone's sort of experiencing the same punch bowl drink. Love the concept of a punch bowl.
I'm going to take this. We got one of our kids are in school and we have some parents come over with their kids this weekend. I think I'm going to do a punch bowl. Right?
You should. You definitely should. Yeah. I want to get a punch bowl set so I can do a punch bowl right.
Are they only at dollar stores? Do they have is it just dollar store punch bowl sets and then it's just super expensive? I'm not sure.
They're things I imagine that you could get at any yard sale. Like there's all sorts of old people getting rid of their punch bowls these days. But I love a good punch bowl. There used to be a bar I would go to years ago that they sort of specialized in punch bowls, and they had these really fascinating punch bowls, and they would serve it to you in this like crystal punch bowl, and you'd get teacups to drink from, and it was fantastic.
I can't imagine not ordering a ton of those. Let's see. Other honorable mentions. I like Ernest. I mentioned it before, but his poignant and like very wise, great perspective, like soliloquies he does, where he just goes like, and does like, it's time to slip the surly bonds of earth and dance the skies on laughter's silvered wings. Like that stuff he just squeezes in that shouldn't be in a kid's movie, but it's like every 12 minutes there's some like, against the sands of time. He just like does that sort of thing. Yep. And it's just great.
It is great.
I'm going to take 80s special effects because they did that like glowing thing where you just cover somebody in blue.
Yep.
And that's all. And like the sleigh ride was incredible.
Oh yeah.
And it didn't take much as a kid in the 80s. Like I know people look at the stuff now and go like, oh, that's terrible. Except for this looked actually pretty good. But at the time you didn't need that much to be blown away by like the special effects.
Yes. I mean, it did help when you were watching it on VHS on a 20-inch TV screen.
Yes.
Definitely not HD. So I got some more bolt cutters. Love a good pair of bolt cutters. Bolt cutters almost feel magical. Like it's just this thing that you can buy anywhere, and it turns you into basically like a superhuman. Like you can cut through bolts.
Yeah,
that's not something people can do.
It's a bolt. It's meant to be made so you can't cut through it.
Yes, and then you just get this magical tool, boom, like butter. They're awesome.
In high school, I worked at the Gold's Gym over in West Roxbury for a couple of years, and at the end of every night, if somebody left their locks on there, we got to clip them off. And it was like, whoa, I hope somebody leaves something in there tonight so I can get the bolt cutters and go get it. It was so satisfying. That goes into like the welding zone too, right? Like it's just, like something about that. It's just cool. I think I had one more. It's taking a while, but I like the fact that Santa lost his faith in the movie for a little bit. That rarely happens. Like he was like sometimes it's just like they're just steadfast and they believe and everything else. But he had a bunch of stuff go against him, and he's like, well, if I can be wrong about one person, maybe I can be wrong about somebody else. And oftentimes in these movies, it's just too much confidence. And it was just cool how he was just like, well, whoops, I thought this was going to work out and this didn't go well. And now I need the other people to step up around me and not just have Santa carry it. And then the other people stepped up. That was cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of one of the things that makes this movie so good. As ridiculous and over the top as it is, it's also a really down to earth, grounded film.
Yeah.
The way it moves. I did have one other honorable mention, which was just pancakes. I think making pancakes is there anything better than just being a dad or being a guy or being a person and just making a bunch of pancakes for people in the morning? It's like the greatest.
I've never made pancakes. I don't know how. God.
You've got to make pancakes.
It looks like a great.
Everyone, whoever you're serving them to, is like, hell yeah, pancakes, and it's just this like fun thing. And when you're the person creating that, bringing that into the world, it's a great way to start your day.
And that's a great bit from one of his commercials to the pancakes, where he would always
100%
throw it up and then
flips
time it.
Catches the whole thing. Absolutely. Yeah.
Great bit. My anti-pick only being one being I hated that obnoxious kid Bobby in the bus terminal who's playing the hacky sack wrong and going out into space. But the main thing being love Ernest, but man, he is a close talker. I found myself like pulling back sometimes when he's like getting to somebody else's face talking. It's just so much grabbing and closeness.
Yes.
All right, let's move to our superlative.
Yep.
For this movie, we have our superlative is favorite outfit. I have a feeling there's 3 to choose from. But I'm curious.
I mean, there's so many, and that's one of the things that is great for. And I wrestled with this because I had 3. I did have 3 that I was debating between. I'm curious if they're the same 3 that you have. One, Ernest's outfit, which is just, I love that it is the outfit he has in the ads. It's consistent throughout. It's a signature look. I've never seen anyone dressed like that, and yet it's not like particularly memorable, but it's very unique.
Mm-hmm.
There was the agent with the rolled up suit sleeves, which was also a signature look. Maybe that's a Florida thing. I've never seen that before, but in a number of different suits in different circumstances, he was wearing that. Fascinating. I've never done it, but it kind of made me want to try it out. But I didn't take either of those.
Mm-hmm.
What I took was one that already came up once. It was the shoe hat. I have never seen anything like the shoe hat before. And I saw the shoe hat. I rewound it. I saw it again. I made everyone in my house come and look at the shoe hat. It was just the most unbelievable piece of clothing I've ever seen in any film ever. I was like, this is, and for no reason. There's no reason you need to have a shoe hat. It's not part of the plot in any way, other than to show that there are some like very unusual characters coming through security. But it was just an extra touch. I'm glad someone was just like, let's throw in a shoe hat, or someone just like had this. I don't even know where a shoe hat comes from, but I loved the shoe hat.
It's like, it reminded me of like the Always Sunny with like worm hands, like Charlie Kelly's mind of like a diary of what he's like has in his head, like a shoe hat. Yeah, a shoe hat. And it's the same high heel 15 times over in a circle to make a hat. And it's to show that like, and I loved how it was that same disgruntled like TSA agent, and they showed shoe hat lady next to people who are just like religious and like, and it's like, fine, get through, Santa. We got shoe hat, we have a Muslim, and we have a Santa. It's all the same thing. It was great. I'm glad you went outside of Ernest, because I was hyper focused on the Ernest costumes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you didn't even mention the 2 that I was between, which to this, it's between the mom with the neck brace and the Snake's guy.
Yes.
Snake's Ernest. And I'm going with the mom. I think the older lady with the neck brace and the pearls and the walker. And it's like this, such an Ernest thing. Chris Farley did it too, where they just like jam their neck into it, and you have like all the rolls of it. And it's just like the comments she was saying, how she needs to work on her will because she had to walk from the airport in her
so funny.
Like, he's just like spitting fire during that, while being dressed in like the funniest outfit ever. And it's so funny where it comes back later in other movies, because that outfit is just amazing. I also just honorable mention to the Snakes guy, which I thought was great too.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to find a way to do this. I need to find some fellow Ernest people, but I think the greatest group Halloween costume you could ever do would be all different Ernests. Like if you just imagine you could cross moves, and even just from this one movie, you have Ernest, regular Ernest.
Yep.
You have Ernest, the fake government official. Like and they're all very much looks. So you could pull it off because you don't have to look. Some movie characters are tough to pull off because you kind of have to look like the person. There's such caricatures that anyone could do it. You get the Snakes Ernest, you get the Mom Ernest, and then you get all the other movies as well. Like there are so many great things you could do. I think that'd be a fantastic group costume that I need to remember for next year.
Just make your family do it in like 3 years.
Yes, right.
Everyone's dressing up as Ernest's dad wants to. Some movie from the 80s. I'm interested in what you think about this one, what you picked for this one, but our bumper sticker category. I have two choices for mine. I'll have you go first for your bumper choice or line from the movie that would be a great bumper sticker on a car.
So mine, this was interesting. I didn't have a ton, but I had 3 that I was choosing from, and I thought they were all fantastic. So I'll go with what I ended up choosing, and then we can touch on the others because I'm curious if any of the others are something you chose. But what I'm going with, and this is probably just the most personal to me because I want to identify the other Ernest people out there, and this would identify me as an Ernest person having this on my car. I'm just going with the Ernest catchphrase, "Know what I mean?"
That's what I
have. Yep. I mean, clearly we're 2 Ernest guys. That's the answer.
It's just like, imagine if you're driving around and you see them in the back of someone's car, it says, "Know what I mean?" And you just like, God, you want to roll down the window and be like, want to talk Ernest right now?
Yes. You would 100%, you would have to. It would make my day to see that on someone else's car. And any Ernest fan would feel the exact same way. So that's why it's obviously the perfect choice.
It's Know What I Mean. Yeah, for sure. That's my choice too. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah. My other ones I had thought of, and this one came early. I have lived my life in the fast lane. You could definitely see that on a bumper sticker. And then this other one. Yeah, right. Exactly. I feel like this is now, it's probably outdated within the last month or something, but this was a thing that came up and was a saying when people were talking about like the greatest players and sports and athletes and things like that. There was the question like, is he him, or I'm him, or he's him? Did that come from this film? Because in this film they say he's him, and then Santa says I'm him.
I'm him
in a way that I don't recall seeing in any other pop culture movies, TV, anything. I think this originated the he's him, I'm him dialogue.
I totally agree. I mean, I watch a good amount of basketball, and oftentimes after big shots, people like to say I'm him, and I think they're kind of referencing Ernest.
They are.
They do that.
And I think you throw that out, throw I'm him on a bumper sticker. I mean, it's got to be quite the car, but I'm sure somebody would do it. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm him that's a great one. I like that a lot. I was thinking about if there's ever a seasonal bumper sticker, if there's like one that you can just take off and put on and whatever, then I'll say it the way he says it. You can keep your channel number 5, which Chanel number 5. Just give me a whiff of the old lonesome pine. You know, like once again, you'd know that was Ernest, but it's a good seasonal one for just like, I can't wait for the smell Christmas trees right now.
Yeah. Somebody should make like the Post-its of bumper stickers that you can you stick the whole thing on, and then you can just peel one off when you're on to the next one.
It's such a commitment. That was the big, like you're just gonna have and you're gonna have the residue of the sticker. What if you could just change your mind? It's not so permanent.
Yep.
What do we have next here? One change to be a blockbuster. I'll go first on this one. I didn't have much for this, but the only thing I had was Joe, the second Santa, didn't really like do much really for me. And I thought that maybe that could be like a celebrity cameo or like a Rob Reiner or like someone at that time who had a little gravitas to it that person didn't do a whole lot in the movie. It was only like, it's almost like John Candy role in Home Alone, where you can just like get a big guy in there for a small role.
Yeah.
And I feel like that could have been a good spot to have like a name in that little small role.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been great. It also would have been great to have someone that was sort of a budding star. I mean, it's tough. It would have to be sort of like a late bloomer, but budding star, I feel like. And it was someone that then comes on later and you're like, oh yeah. And did you see him in Ernest Saves Christmas? Like that would be really fantastic. I don't have anyone in mind, but I'm sure there's someone out there that would have been perfect.
I just did Rob Reiner because I thought the guy was Rob Reiner when it started.
Right. He kind of he had that look where you're like, is that this guy? And it's like, no, it's not that guy.
No.
I at one point was like, was he the cab driver in Escape from New York?
He was?
There's like I don't think he was, but I thought he was for like most of the movie.
I saw one of his credits was, I don't know if you know the movie Mystery Men. It's they have all like goofy superheroes, and they had like bad guy tryouts. He didn't make the cut, but he was listed in the credit as reverse psychologist. So like that was his like superpower. So I cut his scene, but I would imagine that would be a funny scene if you know that movie. Like, I don't want to be in your group. Oh wow, look, we should get this guy in our group.
My one change. I also struggled with this because to me this is really almost a perfect Christmas movie, so I had a hard time with this one. But I think it was sort of halfway through the movie before we really knew what the issue was. Like, we knew Santa had come down, we knew he was looking for Joe, but we didn't know why. Like, we didn't know that like this magic was fading and he had to replace him. I feel like maybe I could have used that information just a little bit sooner. I could have made things a little bit more clear as to what was going on. But again, that's really picking nits at this point.
It's a great movie, so you got to pick some nits on this category. Maybe Santa could have came, but if Santa came, a week before, we wouldn't have the movie. You waited till the end here at the 7:00 crunch time.
Yep.
Spin-off ideas. What do you got?
I got two ideas that are a little bit similar. Both, again, just conceptual, didn't really get into it too far, but one kind of obvious one, and I've talked about this before, of sort of, I like the concept of building out the universe of some of these films, even if it's totally different. But just give me Christmas Sleigh. Like, show me the movie that was made, right? Like, show me the actual movie. I want to see the other actors in it, carry it to completion, make that same film. You already have the actors there. Make the movie, put it on like, when they had those DVDs that was two different sides. Give me that. Give me the 2-pack so I can watch both Ernest Saves Christmas and then follow it up with Christmas Sleigh.
I like this, like Machete, right? Like started off as an ad and then became a movie.
Yes, or Thanksgiving, same exact thing.
Yep.
My other idea was just inspired by the opening weekend. What if we had Ernest versus Chucky? I mean, it would be great.
Yeah, of course, that's incredible. It already was, or it'd be Ernest versus Chucky too, because they already went head to head, right? On that opening weekend. Yeah, I mean, my two, I'll start with my combo. I thought that like Pee Wee Herman and Ernest were like in a similar weird vein. I didn't know if they could have like a weird crossover movie in the late 80s. I thought that could have worked. No idea for what it is, but my main thing being Christmas Sleigh, SLAY, is a movie that I think if it was made, we would have already done on our podcast. Like it seems like it's close to like Silent Night, Deadly Night. And it was like an alien monster that looked like Swamp Thing coming into the house, and they had to like light them up with. But that sounds amazing. How would I not? Yeah. How would we not want to watch that movie?
No. So we would. That would have been like, yes, that would have been our first Christmas movie, 100%.
And we'd be drinking mulled wine and Old Fezziwig, I'm sure.
Yes, exactly. Sounds great.
Our newest sponsored segment, Tying Up Loose Ends, sponsored by Training Ties. What things have we not talked about that we were itching to? I've got a bunch. I didn't know if you did too.
Oh, I did have the guy's name who did the score, Mark Snow. So props to Mark Snow.
Little Noelle there as well. Christmas. Right.
Probably how he got the role.
Yeah, I'll bet the casting director's like, anyone named close to Christmas or winter or anything?
Yep. And it worked.
It worked.
I had one little note about the agent. The agent here, he was in arguably in two Christmas movies that came out this same year, 1988. He was also in Die Hard.
Yeah, my other favorite Christmas movie.
Yeah, which is crazy. He was on the flight talking to John McClane on the way in when he's talking about stress relieving.
Yep.
Tools.
Perfect guy to be on that flight to LA that he was on. It's like the same character.
Yep, right, exactly. Yeah, I wonder if he had his sleeves rolled up. Let's see.
Have you ever picked anyone up by doing the shave and a haircut beep? Beep, 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 beep. Have you ever done that when picking somebody up?
Ooh, probably not. I've definitely done it knocking on a door.
Yep.
But I don't know if I've done it with the horn, because you kind of have to be really confident and comfortable with your horn, because you need those short horn bursts, which can be tough.
Yep, for sure. And you just you don't want to be a dick. So right? So if you're in a neighborhood, you can't just beep in front of someone's house. It's got to be a little isolated to do it.
Yeah.
It happened to
be out
at
like a warehouse.
Right. I had a buddy who would always beep when he would drop me off at night. So like you're in high school or whatever, and then you get back a little too late, and it's always like beep, just so you're just make sure I wake everybody up in your house when you're going in there.
I had the number of children that Santa references when talking about how many children he has to deliver. It was the correct number. They did their research. I looked that up. That was the right number, approximate right number of children at that time in 1988.
Calling someone bozo, I feel like that should happen more again. I don't think anyone calls.
Should.
It's like I call my son's knucklehead. It's like the same vein. It's almost like endearing. Bozo. You don't mean anything negative by it. Like bozo, but no one calls anyone bozos anymore.
This had me wonder if playing Santa was sort of like a club, like if actors, when they see each other who have also played Santa, if they have some camaraderie over it. Like I imagine people who play, I don't know, James Bond or something like that have this sort of like it's a club. I imagine it's the same with Santa.
It's like you watch SNL and they have like the 5 Timers Club and they have like the jacket that you'd get, right? Like if you play the jacket, like, oh, Kurt Russell, I heard you're in a new Netflix Christmas movie. Here's your Santa coat.
Yep.
You're in the club.
Yeah, welcome to the club.
Or Friar's Club jacket. It's just the Santa coat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be a club. It would be great if there's like a text chain that somebody gets added to every single time another movie's made. Let's see. I think I had one more. Oh, I still sing the lyrics to, I don't know the lyrics, so I sing Ernest lyrics to Old Christmas Tree. That's what so when he started doing it, I'm like, I don't know the lyrics either. That's what I do. It's perfect.
My only other one was the early on the cab scene. It's just like the cab. Ernest is driving all over the place, and the guy in the cab sliding all over the cab, and it always makes me laugh that like everyone's very seatbelt conscious. Not as much in the 80s, but still. But it's like you jump in a cab and there are no rules. No one's ever put a seatbelt on in a cab. That just doesn't even exist, and it's this like special magical world where you just don't need to wear a seatbelt.
That was the I think 80s, and every time before that, it just you almost like you put on a seatbelt. What's wrong with you? You don't trust my driving? I would get that from my film. You don't trust my driving?
All right. So what do we got going next?
Well, next, I think this is inspired a bit by the horrible fight that everyone watched with Tyson Jake Paul. It kind of got us into realizing we haven't done enough boxing movies, and I'm super pumped to do this. This was on my original list when we started the podcast of a movie that I wanted to do. One of my favorite movies is a boxing movie called Undisputed with Ving Rhames and mainly Wesley Snipes. So I'm pumped we get to do another Wesley Snipes. I think the last one was, we did Money Train and we did Passenger 57. I think the other 2 Snipes movies we've done. So this is one of my favorite boxing movies. Undisputed.
Yeah, I'm excited. I love boxing films. They're one of my favorite genres. I can't believe we haven't done one yet. Yeah, this is when I texted you after watching that fight. It's like we got to find a good boxing movie to do, and you seem to have picked a perfect one. I haven't seen it yet, but from the cast and the poster, I'm very excited to watch this.
It's very much similar to like Gridiron Gang, where the super athlete goes into prison and they have to compete with the people in prison, and are they as good as them type of thing. And it's
Yep, yeah, it sounds
cool. This was a blast. It's officially Christmas now, and later.
Yeah, later.